I take my record out of the sleeve, put it on my player. Only one problem. I realize both sides of the record are completely scratched and unusable. Maybe it was my kids, or maybe there's some other story behind the scenes. I'm here to talk about 5 instances in which I replaced records and the stories behind those albums, here on the next episode of Northern Vinyl Guy. Hello everyone, it's Daryl the Northern Vinyl Guy back at you with another video here. Over the last little while I've been thinking about a unique idea to do for a video, and I thought about some records that I've had over the years that I had to replace in one way or another because they were scratched or they were damaged somehow. And so I'd like to talk about 5 of them here on this video. But before I start, I encourage everybody, if you like what my content has, please feel free to leave a like. Make sure that if you have not yet done so and you like my videos, please subscribe, and leave some comments in the section below about any records that maybe you've had that you had scratched and you had to replace them, and maybe the story behind them. What I'd like to do is to turn this into a VC thread. So those of you out in the vinyl community, if you would like to come up with 5 albums of your own that you've had to replace, maybe they got damaged in the sun, maybe they were scratched, why did you have to replace them? What are the stories behind them? Please share them and leave me comments or mention me in the vinyl community. Okay, so without further ado, what I'd like to do is I'm going to get started, I guess, with some of my older stuff, and then I'll move on to some of the newer stuff. So here are 5 instances that I've had over the years in which, for whatever way, I've come across my records damaged. Now, in the case of all of mine, this is solely related to, these were not damaged in the sun, these were not scratched by another person or anything like that, other than my own children. I have 4 children, but my youngest 2, when I started getting into the hobby in 2010, they were really, really little, and they got a hold of some of my records, and some of them I didn't even find out until many years later that they had been damaged. All right, so I'm going to start with this one here, and this is kind of an odd one to be showing, and why it would be important. Not a lot of people would, be showing this on the VC, but My Baby Loves to Charleston is a compilation of 1920s and, solely 1920s. This is the backside of Charleston music. It includes, Bert Furman with his orchestra, the Rhythmic 8, songs such as Brown Sugar, Ain't She Sweet, etc., etc. Now, the reason that this one, for me, holds some sentimental value is that, first of all, it's the only one I still have in my collection that is, I don't know if you can see it or not, but tell me if you do. This one is scratched to crap, and I have not been able to physically replace this one yet. But on the back side of this album, you will notice at the top, it says Germany 1967. In 2010, my grandfather passed away, and it just so happened to be he passed away on my 31st birthday. I was out at the bar celebrating with my friends, and then I got home and I found out that he had passed away. He had been in the hospital for quite some time up until that point. But when I went down to his funeral at the end of May in 2010, my brother and I, who were present for the funeral, we went through my grandfather's belongings with my dad and my grandmother, and up in the top of his closet was an entire stack of records. I would say there's probably about 100 or 150 records, and this was one that I had picked up out of that particular collection. Now, the importance of that Germany 1967, it says December the 1st, is I'm assuming that's when my grandfather picked it up. He was an active member in the Canadian military from the Korean War up until 1979, when he had retired from the military. And so when my grandfather was stationed in Germany, that is when he would have picked up this album. Now, the thing about this album too, and why I haven't replaced it just yet, is I believe that it was only pressed in the UK. So when I go on Discogs and stuff like that, I am only able to find UK pressings, of which all the ones I've ever seen, I would have to have shipped from the UK. So one of these days, when I got a little bit of extra cash, I would like to replace this album, but I'm only replacing the disc. I'm going to keep this cover with the writing on the back as a sentimental value from my grandfather and his collection. So that is album number 1, My Baby Loves to Charleston. Album number 2 is Bob Dylan's Greatest Hits. So shortly after I started collecting in 2010, after my grandfather's passing, we were still heading from Northern Ontario, and we would go down south to visit family, especially around Christmas time. And one of the last times we headed down for Christmas, my father-in-law, Charlie, had got me I think about 4 or 5 records as a Christmas gift. Bob Dylan's Greatest Hits was one of those records. And this is the one, I mean, this has some great tracks on it. Rainy Day Women, Blowing in the Wind, Times They Are Changing, Subterranean Homesick Blues, Mr. Tambourine Man Like a Rolling Stone. They're all on this Greatest Hits compilation. And so, it was, I wasn't expecting to get these albums from my father-in-law. I mean, I appreciated that he got me some gifts. And I was really excited about this Greatest Hits. One day I went to pull it out to play it, and lo and behold, the entire one side was completely scratched. I was not impressed with my kids. Obviously I couldn't verify which child it was. But I felt really bad about it. And so I went on Discogs and I replaced it. Had it shipped up to me, and so now I have a nice, actually I think this copy might even be cleaner than the original one. It had some skips and pops, so I appreciated the gesture. I felt bad. The record got damaged, and so I replaced it. Bob Dylan's Greatest Hits. All right, record number 3, Then and Now, the Best of the Monkees. Now, if you've been following along with some of my videos, you will know that my father was my greatest inspiration in my record collection. He kind of got me into this when I was a little kid. My dad had hundreds, I would assume thousands of records. And then, in 2001, my dad got laid off, and he ended up giving all his record collection away because he just couldn't bring it with him. And so when I started getting back into the hobby, my dad each year for Christmas would buy me a record to add to my collection. The Monkees' Greatest Hits was one of those. And then, just a few years ago, I had taken this out, and, if you followed along, 2016, my dad wasn't in the greatest health and he passed away. So about 2 or 3 years ago, I took this album out, and once again, I look at it and it's scratched. And I mean fully scratched. I couldn't even play that side, period. So once again, I was like, man, this is another sentimental gift. I got to replace it. As a kid, I was too young. I'm born in the late, 70s, 1979. I never watched, Monkees the show, but I do remember on VH1, Peter Noon had a program called, I think it was called My Generation, and he used to show, videos of bands from the 60s and the 70s. The Monkees was on there, and, I remember, I think it was Daydream Believer was one of the videos that he showed, which is on this album. And then you got Last Train to Clarksville, you got Anytime, Any Place, I'm a Believer, Take a Giant Step. A lot of the good hits are on this album. So yet again, another instance of I just happened to take it out, couldn't play it, and ended up replacing it, once I had the little bit of money to do so. All right, record number 4, This one I remember from my childhood. My dad used to have this when I was a kid. And I think it was in 2000. I don't remember the exact day. What I do remember about this game, and if you are a Toronto Blue Jays fan, you will remember a catcher by the name of JP Arancibia. And I was actually at Rogers Center when he played in his first Major League Baseball game with the Toronto Blue Jays, and he had hit multiple home runs during that game. It was a really exciting game. I had gone there with a good friend of mine, Steven, and his friend Brenton. But just prior to the game, I had gone to a record store to kill some time, and I was looking through the discount bin, and I happened to see this Canadian Gold record, and I was like, man, my dad used to have this when I was a kid. I'm going to buy it. So I bought it, brought it with me to the Jays game, and once again, this is another one of these random situations where I take out the record, and it is completely just totaled. It totally trashed. Now, my friend Steven, who came to the game with me, we used to actually play Mario Kart on the Wii. My wife would be out at a function, or she'd be at a friend's house or whatever it was, and we would sit there and we would throw this album on while we were playing Mario Kart on the Wii, and so it has some definite sentimental value to me. So I replaced it, and it's one that I deeply treasure. Some of the hits that are on this particular record, it's got "Boy Inside the Man," Tom Cochrane. It's got "Dirty Water," Rockin' Hide, Soul City, Partland Brothers. It's got some Northern Pikes, Kim Mitchell, Haywire. It's all Canadian. And then on the flip side, side 2, you got The Box, you've got Honeymoon Suite, you've got some Zappa Costa, and even a lesser known song called "Together," the new wedding song by Joey Gregorash. This is a pretty good Quality Records special one here. All right, so that is the fourth one. That'll be the final one that I'm going to show based on a physical copy. But there is one other record that I did have that I'd like to mention. I haven't replaced it, and it is very unlikely that I ever will replace it, just because I'm not into this type of music. However, it is the band The Lumineers and their self-titled album, their debut album from 2012, I think it is, or 2013. I can't remember. There was a science teacher at my high school that I used to work with, and he had an extra copy of this, and he was like, "Hey, Daryl, I have this extra copy. I'm never going to listen to both copies. Would you like a copy of this album?" And I said, "Sure, I will take it. I'll add it to my collection." The self-titled album is the one that has the song "Ho Hey," which was a big hit in Canada and the United States. If you like that folky kind of music. So the Lumineers self-titled track, or self-album title album. I'm not going to replace it most likely, unless I've got some spare cash here and there. But just a fifth one that I'd like to throw out, and the story kind of behind it. Steve, the guy who gave it to me. If you happen to be watching this video, I haven't seen you in a long time, but if you're watching this from Guelph, just remember, I had to replace your record, and I just haven't got around to doing it so far. Hopefully one day, if it comes down to it, I will do so. All right. With that, without further ado, I am going to just put it out there. I'd like to try to make this a vinyl community thread, if you'd like. It'd be cool to know if anybody else out there. I'm sure we've all had situations where we had to replace some records. Love to know your stories behind it. Choose 5 from your collection, and just discuss them here on in the community. So without further ado, if you like my channel, please feel free to leave me a like, subscribe, put some comments down in the section below about albums that maybe you've had to replace, and do a video on it. So stay safe, and until next time, keep listening.